record on this computer. Okay. So Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Vibhaga, Yoga. It is the nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. So we completed 12 chapters. That was on Karma Yoga, then Bhakti Yoga. So now it is Jnana Yoga. Okay. So this is more, and Krishna has talked most of it on Bhakti and Karma. Now he's going to talk and he's going to elaborate more and more of whatever he talked earlier. Okay. So it's nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. So let us pay obeisance to our Radha Radha Govinda. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Te Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Desha Tarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnanakashalakaya Chakshulumitanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namano Vishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Manvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittam Shaha E Krishna Karno Sindho Dina Bandho Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpaturvapyascha Kripa Sindhu Avevacha Patitam Nam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So let us do a short recap. So what did Krishna say in the chapter 12 on devotional service? So the Arjuna was a query was there from Arjuna asking to which Rupa shall I worship the Brahma Jyoti, that is effulgence, or the impersonal form of Krishna, or the personal form of Krishna. So then Krishna was emphatic. He says clearly that personal devotion to Krishna is the supreme, because the other impersonal devotion will only be lot of endeavor, and it is that is it's difficult, and it take many births to reach the supreme abode. So instead, personal devotion to Krishna is easy and it's straightforward, and it is sublime. So that's what he says. Personal devotion is very clear on it to how the devotion. There's no duality here. And then he also talks about how he understands. In this chapter, we can see how magnanimous Krishna is, because he's very understanding. He knows that it is difficult to do Anyanya Bhakti, that is to pure devotion in Krishna. So he gives a lot of options. So you do the regulated Bhakti, that is Sadhana Bhakti, and that is follow the regulations and restrictions given by the Acharyas, and slowly he will develop the love for the Lord. So that is sadhana bhakti. Then if you can't do that also, doing the regulations and things, do nishkama bhakti, that is offer all the fruits of your work, that is you work for Krishna. Suppose you can't even do that, then he says if you are nothing, then at least you offer your fruits of labor to charity or to some good causes. If you can't give it to the Krishna. So again, he gives a second. So even if you can't do all that, he says, you can cultivate knowledge, or you do meditation. And he gives all these options, because he says he understands there are people who will find it difficult, and if they find it difficult, they will drop out of the spiritual life itself, isn't it? So he says to be on the spiritual line, let them be on that and slowly progress in the path of self-realization. So that's why he gives these options. From this, we know that he is understandable and he can understand and how the living entities are different natures, okay? And they come from different circumstances, and they might be still in the bodily concept, and how surely they will progress. Then he talks about the qualities of the devotee, which is dear to him, because that there must be some standard, what we should progress. How do we progress? How do we cultivate our qualities? That we should understand, isn't it? Not just thinking that whatever we are doing, that is right, and be in the comfort zone. It's not that. So he gives us the qualities of the devotee. What is the attitude to oneself? That is, he is non-envious, he is very faithful, and he is devoid of, free of false ego, and in dealing with others, he doesn't hurt them, nor is envious of others. And then how he reacts to the events. He is samadhamma, that is happiness or distress. He is equanimous, he is beyond the duality, and with dealing with Lord is with pure bhakti. How with love and nothing, he is always determined in this bhakti. So he is the qualities he explains to us. So so what is he going to talk in this chapter? So here, again, it starts with Arjuna is asking 6 questions on Kshetra, Kshetrajna, then what is Prithvi, what is Name, what is knowledge, and about 6 things. So then the description of Kshetra and Kshetrajna is being given thing, and the process of acquiring the knowledge. How do you understand these two? That is Kshetra and Kshetrajna. And then who is the object of knowledge? And then lastly, he addresses Prakriti, Purusha, and Unit. So this is what. So when we say personal devotion to Krishna, excuse me, if Bhakti is the culmination, then why is Jnana presented in the last 6 chapters? That might be answered. We're thinking. In truth, entire Bhagavad Gita is about Bhakti only. Nothing else. In the first 6 chapters, we discussed how to achieve bhakti through karma yoga. And the last 6 will describe how to achieve it through knowledge. And the middle, this 6 chapters discussed about bhakti itself. What he means by bhakti, how different transcendentals are. And in 12th chapter, Krishna explained how he personally delivers his devotees from birth and death. He says, the more you surrender, to the degree of surrender, to that degree he will be reciprocating to you, and the more depends on how determined you are in this path, then he will give you the understanding, and he will, I think we saw the 4 chatur slokas in chapter 10, and also in chapter 8 we saw that if you remember Krishna at the time of death, then you are sure to go back to his abode. That is he says, without don't doubt. So many times he keeps saying, without doubt, he will personally delivers, and he gives that reciprocates to us. If we take 1 step, he will surely take 10 steps towards us to deliver us. Okay. So that's also. So Jnana has its use in assisting our detachment from Maya. That's what it is. How to attach ourselves to Krishna. So that knowledge is what we are going to talk. And these 6 chapters provide the philosophical knowledge necessary to extricate oneself from this material world. Because we know we have to come away from Maya, but how to do it? At least we should get some knowledge, understanding, right? About this Maya and this Prakriti. Hence, when we use knowledge as a means to attain devotion, it becomes a part of Bhakti, right? So what was the question? Arjuna said, oh my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer and the field and the knower of the field of knowledge and the end of knowledge. So there are 6 questions. Prakriti, Purusha, the field, knower of the field, knowledge, and the end of knowledge. What is the purpose? So Krishna says, this body, O son of Kunti, is called the field. And the one who knows this field is called the knower of the field. That is Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So this might be little thing that Kshetra means is the body, which is our body is the field. And Kshetrajna is the knower of the field. Okay. So these are the questions. Prakriti, material nature. Purusha, enjoyer of Prakriti. Kshetra is the body, Shariram, he says. And Kshetrajna is the observer in the body. So in the observer in the body, there are two people. One is the soul and the super soul. In every body, soul is there and super soul, and he is the body. And jnanam, that's a knowledge. So knowing the relation between the Kshetra and Kshetrajna, body and the super soul thing, understanding that is the knowledge. And what is the goal of knowledge is Paramatma. That means that is the object, right? So this is what we are going to see here in this chapter. So Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajno jnanam yat tat jnanam matam mama. So, O son of, O Skyan of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all the bodies. And to understand this body and its owner is called knowledge. That is my opinion. So what do you see in this picture is, this is in our, when you are awake state. When you are awake state, your body is working, your mind is working. And so their soul and the Paramatma is there in the every living entity is there. You have the body is working, the mind is also working. Okay. But in a dream state, the body is asleep, it's in rest, but your mind is not in rest. So the mind is awake, and but your soul and the Paramatma will always be awake. It always be active. It doesn't go to sleep. It's a nature is to be always active. But in the dream state, the body is asleep and the mind is awake. Okay, but when in the deep sleep, both mind and the body is at rest, and still your soul and the Paramatma is awake. Okay, this is the three stages of a consciousness is told with it. So in that, when he says super soul, he is not only in our body, he is also there in all the living entities and the non-moving and moving body that is also there. So we are going to see that. So how do we understand more clearly? We can say how this feels. So we have a farmer here. Okay, he is taking care of this field. Okay, so whatever he sows in this field, he knows. So he is and this field is like a body, and the soul is the farmer. Okay, and how is and he will be cultivating the thing. And how is the super soul? Super soul is the sun. The sun is pervading everywhere. So he sees all the living entities, and he also sees this farmer what he is doing. Okay. So whatever he sows, whatever he is sowing the seeds, only this soul will know, as well as the Paramatma will know, isn't it? He cannot know what the other person is doing. What is the other person is doing? Whereas super soul will, because he is the sun will see all the fields all throughout the world. So he knows what is being done. So what fruit to get, how to get, it depends upon what we sow, isn't it? So whatever our actions that we undertake, whatever we do, for that we will be bearing the reactions, the soul. And this, the field, this of the activities, of this knower of the activities and all is described by various stages in the various Vedic writings. It's not that just we are seeing it only in Bhagavad Gita. It is there. The sages has written in the Vedic Vedas. It's already there. Especially is presented in Vedanta Sutra with all the reasoning as to the cause and the effect. Like, if a child is born, is the mother and father are the causes, and the result is the child is born, isn't it? So like that, all the cause and effect of this material nature, what is the body, the living entities, the relationship, everything has been presented in the Vedanta Sutra. So we see Krishna also gives us the reference. He says, these are the references, and it's not just in the Bhagavad Gita what we are seeing. Actually, Bhagavad Gita gives the summary of the Vedas, what we are seeing. So how do we, it's not just, he's telling from his mind, with whatever philosophy we hear, it should not be somebody's mental speculations. It has to have some reference from somewhere he is quoting this. That we should understand. Otherwise, he's just quoting from his mind means it will be only a concoction. It cannot have any basic standing, okay, to understand. So the same way he created the world, that means Krishna is the cause and the world is the effect. And he is present everywhere, isn't it? So there are in Tantra cause and effect. Then in how to realize Krishna's presence depends on a level of consciousness. Okay, there are Annamaya, someone who knows all about the body. Now you're on the body level, the consciousness, then it is Annamaya Kosha. Then you have Pranamaya Kosha. So Pranamaya Kosha is appreciated when Krishna's presence is realized in the form of life. They have the source which I have. And he is enough, the living entity is, as long as his needs are satisfied and he is able to, for survival, he is able to take care of his family and everything, he is happy with that, then his level of consciousness is that. As long as he is able to and survive and no calamity happens. I mean, at the level of the economics and things. So that's all about his life he will be bothered about. That is his level of consciousness. But if they go beyond that and to understand Manonmaya, that is beyond that, where one becomes curious and inquires why we have come here, what is our purpose, how to get this knowledge. Am I really dependent on this body to live, or do have an existence beyond that? And am I really dependent on the grains, or I can live without the grains, and things like that. So that is Manonmaya when he starts thinking, Jignasu. Then that is what the Vedic scriptures tells us, to elevate above this consciousness. Don't just live with this, just looking at your body and your pranamaya, think just your defense and economic benefits. You just should go beyond that. That is the Vijnanamaya. So Vijnanamaya is one understands that he is not the body, he is the soul. Okay. And also he is not the mind, because it's not the mind. Mind is just once you controlling the sense and thing, it's not the mind. You're the soul. Okay. And then it has, and you also you are a part and parcel of the super Paramatma. So you are having Sat Chit Ananda. That is, when you come to understand this, you will be understanding this Sat and Chit, the two potentials. To understand, to go to the level of bliss. That is Anandamaya. So you go to that level. So that takes for us to go higher and higher consciousness. But still, this is our true nature. Unless we reach this level, then only we'll know this. So this is given by Tantric Upanishads. This is a reference. So we start from how we realize the presence from the Annamaya to Pranamaya. Then we have to go beyond that and to understand the soul and the relationship with the super soul. So there, in Krishna says there are 5 great elements. What are the 5 great elements? Are they Panchabhutas? Okay, 5 great elements: false ego, ahankar, intelligence, the unmanifested, the modes of nature, the 10 senses, the mind. The 10 senses are the working senses and the knowledge acquiring senses. And the 5 senses or sense objects. 5 sense objects are the smell, touch, sound, taste, and all that. Then desire, hatred. So these 24 elements, 5 plus 3 plus this 10, then this, all that together, it becomes to 24 elements. Through the interaction with these 24 elements, with the thing, our result would be desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, and the life symptoms and connection. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and interactions. That means, for example, we'll take a simple example. Okay, suppose I would like to want to buy a sari. I want a sari. Okay, then I'll be meditating on it. So until I purchase the sari, my life is useless. That's how I think. I must get that particular sari with that design and all that. So my own meditation is on this, right? But once I get that, what is the sari is made of? It's made of the 5 gross elements. So my that level of thinking at that point is involved with one of these elements, isn't it? 5 elements. But and my desire is dependent on one of these 24 elements. So we are still hung up on the Annamaya and Pranamaya Kosha. We are not gone beyond that. That is, we're desiring some material object. Okay. So that is the thing. Then, in fact, this is only a glimpse of a Sankhya philosophy. More details are given in Bhagavatam. Okay. I will take another example. Suppose somebody, you ask someone who are not in this Krishna consciousness, how are you? How is your life now and all that? Immediately what he will say, he will say how he start about his whole life story, how he was in a small house and now he has become a successful thing. He has got a big house now. He has got 4 cars and 5 buildings, and how his business is working and how he was able to make a success in this 2 decades, 2 or 3 decades, and all that success will be all. What he's talking is all about these 24 elements. Okay, somewhere how he has been attached and how he got is on the gross level. He is only on the pranamaya level. He has not yet gone to the manomaya level, right? But if you ask them anything about spiritual life, they will have their own opinions. They will talk on the philosophy. They will say about their philosophy, what they think about it, and how they think. So that kind of talking, they will incline to talk, but they won't give any reference. But it will be their own understanding, their own philosophy. That is how everyone will talk philosophy. On spiritual thing, they will talk. But if you want to talk with the philosophy, with some reference, you say, okay, do you know where it is being quoted, or who else has agreed with your philosophy? They won't have any such thing, but they will like to talk. That means it's all on the mind level, right? It's on the mind level. That's why they will talk like that. So if we want to understand about the Lord, but how we are really think, how do we go about it? How do we go beyond the Manonmaya level? If we have to go, then we have to find a true master, isn't it? Unless we get a spiritual master, understanding this science is not able to do it. So otherwise we will, what is the result of being in this level? Sometimes, some days we'll be having a lot of desires. Because of our desires, we'll be happy, or if it's not fulfilled, we get scared, hate, and then we'll be in distress. So these are the things. And the life symptoms is a consciousness will be only in this level, and only such convictions we'll have. Okay. So we need to rise above that. Then we need to have get a spiritual master. So now Krishna says these things. That is, what are the qualities? Amanitvam adambitavam ahimsa shantir arjavam acharya pasana. Acharya pasana means you have to get a spiritual master. Saucham, cleanliness. Thyriam, atma vinigraha, self-control. Indriyastastu vairagyam, ahankara evacha, janma mrityu jara vyadi, dukkha doshanudarshanam, ashaktirana vishvinnaga, putra dara gredasu, nityam sha sama chittavartam, ishtansvatya. So these are about 4 things. These are the items of knowledge to escape this prison. This is the prison from this material world, how to free from the bondage. So he is telling Mayi Chanaya Yogena Bhaktir Ayapcharine Vivikta Desha Sevitam Aratri Jana Samshadi Adhyatma Jnana Nityatam Tattva Janartha Dashan. So let us understand this more clearly. I have put it in this table. So he is talking about the qualities and what are the most important thing, that is what is essential, and what are the qualities we should have to get this knowledge. First is humility. That means we should not be anxious to have satisfaction of being honored. The minute if you expect somebody to honor you and all that, then you're in the false ego level. Your ego is nothing. So we should first we should be very humble, not to think about being honored. and pridelessness. Ahankara we should have. That is understanding you are not the body. So thus honor and dishonor is the same for you. Ahimsa, non-violence. Unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, otherwise he is only practicing violence. Then tolerance. You have to practice to bear insult and dishonor from others. That is very difficult, but we can slowly cultivate that. Simplicity. We have to be simple. So straightforward that you can disclose the truth even to an enemy. And the most important is accepting a spiritual master, Acharya Upasana. This is very essential. One is these are the essentials and these are the qualities. And cleanliness, he talks about bathing externally as well as chanting. That will purify our misgivings which we have and all the dust we have collected over the years. Steadiness, dhairyam. We have to determine to make progress. See, unless you're determined, to make us progress in spiritual life or self-realization, nothing will work. So we have to be determined and we should desire that. And we should have self-control. Reject anything which is unfavorable to spiritual advancement. So we have to control our senses. Renunciation of sense objects. So because this is the one which will bind us to the material world, not to get to unnecessary demands. Gratified only to keep this body fit for devotional service. Absence of false ego. Reject I am this body of mine or mind and accept that I am Krishna's servant. So these are the things which has been told in these verses, and some more are there. Now, one is we have spiritual master is a must. We have to be humble and we should have no pride. We should no false ego. Then perceptions of it, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Donashtami. So regularly hear about these from the proper source. See, once we keep hearing about it, then we slowly get detached from this material life. Then detachment, be ready to sacrifice everything for Krishna. That takes long. See, you have to progress, right? Slowly you have to progress, and we should be ultimately, once you progress advance, then you'll automatically sacrifice everything for Krishna. And no entanglement with wife and children. Not that you should cut off the thing, but you should practice it if you can do it in the Krishna conscious way, but renounce it if it's unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. So that is only thing, but that takes some time. It's not that easy. We tell you to do it immediately, but be even minded. You have to be not elated or distressed at material gain or loss. But this is what Krishna says. Anyanya Bhakti, engaging one less in the 9 process of Bhakti. This I will tell you in the end. What are these 9 process of Bhakti is? Then you have to be aspiring to live in a solitary place. This is because we don't want to mix with the materialistic people. We have to live in the association of devotees. That's a must now. And detachment from the general mass of people as above. Accepting the importance of self-realization, giving up unnecessary sporting, cinema going, social activities, avoid wasting time, and rejection of useless research. So what we saw, Anyanya Bhakti is important. And for that, we need the help of the Acharya. We should accept an Acharya. And these are the 4 main things: humility, non-violence, self-control, and detach from general people who are not in this Krishna consciousness, because then our progress will be disturbed. So now he's going to, now he told us how to gain the knowledge and how to, because this knowledge, is not something like you can memorize it or you can, it's not just an information, okay? This knowledge, you should be you should be experiment. That means you should come to your heart. You should realize it. So that means you need to be humble to accept this knowledge, right? So now we saw how to gain the knowledge. Now he's going to explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. That means he's going to explain about the soul, the Brahman, the spirit, which is beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. That means the soul which is transmigrating from one body to the other, it's eternal and it is beyond this material world. But we are got conditioned by being in this material world, right? So he's going to give us. So here, Sarvendriya Guna Asham Sarvendra Vivajitam Asaktam Sarvadre Chaiva Nirgunam Guna Bhokta. So it's quite difficult. This chapter is little tough only. Super soul is the original source of all senses. It is without senses. He is unattached, although he is a maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature. At the same time, he is the master of all. So it looks contradictory, but it is not. See, the super soul is original source of all senses means he is all senses and he is without senses. Without senses means his body is transcendental. He can see from everything. His one sense can do the seeing, hearing, everything. It doesn't need different senses, not like us, we need eyes, ears, nose, hands, legs, and all, the different senses for different activities. But for the super soul, for the Lord, Paramatma, he doesn't need, can be without senses, means not from the material understanding. And is attached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. The whole cosmos is working through his energy. So he need not be attached to it. He is there, but he is not there. That is what he means. Transcends the modes of nature and he is the master of all the modes. So through him, the whole thing is operating, modes of nature, but he is the controller and he is not under Maya. So this is a difference between the soul and the super soul. Okay. Super soul is in one body only and it gets conditioned under the clutches of the Maya, whereas the super soul, it's not, it is beyond. And it exists both internally and externally in the moving and non-moving objects, is beyond the power of the material senses to see. See, we cannot understand so easily by our material knowledge. Okay. It should be through the master, through the spiritual master only we'll be able to understand these characteristics of the super soul. And he exists, he was when Brahmastra came to Uttara's womb, to Parikshit to think that time Paramatma had gone inside the womb to resist the Brahmastra. That's what is shown here. So he exists both internally and externally in the moving and non-moving, is beyond the power of the material senses to see or not. So it's like, the sun is far away, but we feel the sunshine. And the sunshine is also in the room. Doesn't mean the sun is in the room. Its energy is there. It's pervading everywhere. Okay. But it is far away. Like that. So Paramatma is there in every living entity, in the moving and non-moving. And is also far away beyond that. And is a source of light in all luminous objects. Is beyond the darkness of matter. And manifested is the knowledge and object of knowledge and the goal of it. So he is Sujata. So Krishna is telling all this, right? So it's slightly the language is good, but this is a very nice thing just taken from the Upanishad only. Thus this picture, this the field of activities, knowledge and the noble have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. What do we see in this picture is in a body we have a soul and the super soul. So what does the soul do? It keeps looking at some fruit here, there it tries to taste this, oh, this is bitter, oh, this is nice. And we are always looking into the sense objects and we are not turning towards the Paramatma. But Paramatma is sitting there, he knows everything, what is happening, what our desires are, how, so we cannot escape. He is the observer, he knows everything, whatever we have been doing, not only in this particular body, our past karmas, everything, activities he's been observing. Okay. And here we are yet to realize our goal and to go. So this is what, and he says, only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature, so that we will go back. Otherwise, we are still entangled in this material world, birth and death cycle. So then material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformation and modes of matter are also products of. So we know the transmigration from one body to the other. The entire material nature and the living entities are also beginningless, but they're always changing. See, we keep changing our bodies and even the material nature is not the same. It has also goes under a lot of transformations. There's always change in the material nature and also in our body. So that's what said here. And the entanglement of the soul with the Prakriti. So and we are always bonded to that because we are in the body platform. Nature is said to be the cause of all material activities, whereas the living entity is the cause of various sufferings and joys. Because living entity is the one who is desiring something. Okay, because we are desire, then we do the activity through the body, right? And so the nature is said, and we are in the mode, depends upon modes of nature. Whether we are in the mode of goodness means we'll be doing pious activities, or in the tamas mode means we'll be doing sinful activities, or in the rajas mode we'll be very impulsive. So depending on the nature and what we have, we will be enacting the work. So it is the cause for the material activities, whereas the living entity is the cause of various sufferings. That is only we feel it, the soul feels. So if you want to be all the time eating means, then your nature will be also that type of understanding you will have. Okay, this person is eating everything. He enjoys to eat anytime, anything, whatever he gets. So you might, in the next birth, you might take the body of the hog or something, which also has the same nature. So we are responsible for the desire, okay? And not also we have to incur the various sufferings or the enjoyments because of our desire, okay? But why is he creating so many? He is creating so many 84 lakh species. Why is he creating that? Is to accommodate all our desires. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil amongst various species. So he will take care of all the natures, no, depending on that. If I don't cultivate Krishna conscious now, then our future is not bright, isn't it? Otherwise, we are always entangled in this. Our body next birth may not be a human body. It could be any one of these species, depending about our karma today. So what happens, why is Krishna telling all that? It's like this. See, a child, he always doesn't like to study, because the school, it's very thing, he doesn't want, he likes to play only the video games. But the mother will say, no, you should study, because your future will not be bright. Because they think you have to study, you have to go through the school, and you have to do your exams and all that, isn't it? The mother will always be worried about the future. Same way here, Krishna is telling all this because he is telling us about the future. How we should, our goal is to go back to the Lord and not to be entangled into this. So he is giving us this understanding. And yet in this body, there's another. So we talked about how the soul interacts with the nature, isn't it? With the Prakriti. Now we are entangled with the material nature, and they keep changing, and it's our desire. But about the Paramatma, he's telling now. There's another transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord. He is the supreme proprietor who exists at the overseer and permitter. And he is known as the super soul. He is the observer. He is seeing everything, whatever we are doing. So one who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, living entity, and the interaction is sure to attain liberation. So that's what he says. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. So once you understand this, that we are not this body, and we are only, though you are in the body, we are the soul, and we have part and parcel of the super soul, and he is there with us, then we will surely turn towards him rather than be in this birth cycle. So he says you will get the liberation. So, but how do we realize this person? The presence of the super soul. So that is what he's talking now. How can we understand that he is there with us? So some perceive the super soul within themselves, okay, through meditation. Others through cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. That means they will do vairagya, they won't think about the results, and they'll just work as their duty. And some will be cultivating through knowledge, and some will do meditation. So these are the three processes. They will try to perceive the presence of soul, super soul in their hearts. How to realize person. But There is another way also. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in this spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. So this is the example of Devotee. She is getting this Sankhya philosophy knowledge from her son, okay, Kapila Muni. So just by hearing and hearing, she is able to realize the Paramatma and she starts worshipping the Supreme Person. So because of the tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So what are the process? Dhyana yoga, meditation, jnana yoga, Vishkama karma yoga, and hearing bhakti yoga. So by these more ways, we can realize this. Otherwise, it's difficult. Oh, Chief Abad, whatever you see in existence, moving and moving is also combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Otherwise, there will be atheists. They think there's no God and all that. That is the understanding. That's the other extreme. But if we see super soul accompanying the individual soul in all the bodies, and you understand that neither the soul nor super soul is ever destroyed, is actually seen. That means he is able to understand by seeing all the living entities and all the things that there is soul and super soul in everything. That means he is actually seeing it properly. Otherwise, he is like a blind person. So then, one who sees a soup in every living equal and everywhere does not degrade himself by it. That means they won't mentally concoct some other explanation. They are sthira in their mind. Then he will approach the transcendental destination. Because once he gets that understanding, then he is a self-realized soul. So he is able to go back. So he can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. So it's the thing. Is that not the doer? Okay, we should see the real doer, and we are the ones who are sick. So how we understand this? It gives another nice analogy in this verse, Krishna. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading, isn't it? You see, there's a whole sky, the wind is moving and everything is within it, and sky is touching all the trees and things, but still it doesn't mix with the trees or with the water or anything. It is there aloof. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, although situated in that body. Okay, that's the analogy we can understand about the presence of a soul and super soul. The sun alone illuminates all this universe. So does the living entity. One within the body illuminates the entire body by consciousness. I think we went through that, no? The presence of soul, the proof of soul. How without the soul, otherwise we'll call it as when you see a dead body, we say he has gone away. Where is he gone? When he is as it left the body, means the soul is not there. That means though the body is still there, the soul is not there, so it's not consciousness. Consciousness is not there. So if the consciousness there means it's a symptom that the soul is there in the body. So that is how we see, illuminates the entire body by his consciousness. So one who knowingly sees this difference between the body and the owner of the body and can understand the process of liberation from this bondage also attains to the supreme hope. So this knowledge, about the body and who is the owner and what are we, what are relation to the supreme soul, we can get. So these were the topics which were discussed today from when Arjuna asked these questions. The Kshetra, Kshetrajna, how to acquire this knowledge. That means we should have the acceptor, bona fide spiritual master, and we should be humble and humble. Then the four qualities. We should not mix with people who don't have who are unfavorable to our path in the spiritual path. Then and also we should be self-controlled. Then only we'll be able to understand this knowledge and our relationship with Prakriti, and who is the enjoyer, the Supreme Soul, and he is eternal and is in all the living entities, where the soul is only in one body, and Prakriti and the soul, they will keep changing their bodies, they keep changing, but So Paramatma, he just accompanies on the soul in all the bodies, and he knows everything, past, everything. So once he sees this knowledge, then we are able to break this bondage from the cycle of birth and death. So we got this jnana and its values, and we should be able to practice it in our life, isn't it? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna, Shiksha. So this is what it's all about. I just talked about the 9 Navavidhi, Vidhi process. Engage oneself in the 9 process of bhakti. That is these things: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Pada Sevanam, Vandanam, Dasha, Sakya, and Atma Nivedanam. So just example is the Shravanam hearing is the Parikshit Maharaj. Kirtanam is even Narda, so Narda Muni is also all the time. Parikshit is hearing, chanting. Kirtanam is Sukadev Goswami. And also Narda Muni, you can say. Vishnu Smaranam, remembering, is Prahlad Maharaj. Pada Sevanam is Goddess Lakshmi. Archanam is deity worship, is Maharaj Prithu. Vandanam is praying, is Akrura. Dashyam is executing orders, is Hanuman. Sakyam is serving as a friend, is Arjuna. Atma Nivedan is a complete surrender, is Bali Maharaj. So this is what we are concentrating, it is now telling you, let's do only Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. That is through chanting. We are engaging our senses, ears and tongue to the mantra, and to do the prasad, anything, and to ABCD principles. We are just focusing on these 3: hearing, chanting, and remembering. That is the beginning. So another thing is just, I thought I'll talk about this anger control. So I just took this verse 2.62. It says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger is. This was, we talked yesterday, one of the devotee was asking about the anger control of anger. So once we see the objects, we slowly get attached to it. And as we start getting more and more attached, our lust increases. And then if our desires are not fulfilled, you result in anger. Then you get into delusion and then fall down. So one thing is, you have to, if you want to control anger, is to have not to out of sight or out of mind. Okay, and then we think. But what happens with attachment? Your expectation increases. Then your insecurity arises. Then your fear of losing there. Then with any slight provocation, you get into anger, isn't it? So what happens if you're getting anger? There are a lot of consequences which are not nice. And to repair it is very hard. And finally, you might even go to suffer some sinful reactions. So this is what will happen when you have this attachment to the objects of senses, right? But how do you come out of it? In chapter 14, 4.10, Krishna tells to be free from this attachment, raga, bhaya, fear, krodha, is to be absorbed in transcendental knowledge. It will purify his desires. So how do we do that? Attachment. That means we are trying to attach to Krishna. So this is what we are telling through Bhagavad Gita. He says to absorb in him, to be fully absorbed in him. How do we do that? By a sadhana. That is ABCD principles. By chanting, what happens? We are engaging our senses. Okay, we are not trying to control the senses. We are engaging our senses, hearing, shravanam, kirtanam, smaranam, and channelizing our thoughts towards Krishna. So what happens by that? Our lust will slowly turn towards love for Krishna. We are trying to cultivate this through the principle sadhana. Then slowly, we will be more secure and you feel calm. And what happens? No need to control your anger artificially, because you're becoming calm and secure in this Krishna consciousness. So this Krishna consciousness process does the job. So we don't have to artificially try to control the anger, any techniques. By just practicing this Krishna consciousness, the process itself does the job. Okay, so this is what I would like to point out. Yesterday I said I will discuss, no? So I thought I will point it out here. With this, I will close my lecture and then take up questions. Vancha kalpaturabhyasya cha kripa sindhu eva cha patitam nam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please chant and be happy. So I'll